And it's Carmen Spindiego, and this is the first episode, Carmen, of our election special, We the People, hosted by Richard Fowler and Carmen Spindiego. Obviously, clearly, we wish we could be in the same room, but we're socially distanced and still looking fly. How are you, Carmen?
I'm doing well. I love the shirt. Love
Thank
the shirt.
you.
Good. I decided to wear a little bit of pink to, I know that a lot of women around the election time have been like rocking out with their hot pinks. I wanted to wear this for you and for everybody else who's out there.
I love it. I love it. And so here's how this goes, right? So for the next 2.5 weeks, you get Richard and Carmen twice a week talking about the issues that are happening around this upcoming election. We will be talking about election protection. We'll be talking about how you create your voting plan. We'll be talking about some key races to watch. And most importantly, we'll be talking to you about why the 2020 election is so important to our lives. If there's any election, Carmen, that is like, this is mission critical, it's
Oh,
this
it's
one,
this
because
one.
this is
Okay.
mission critical.
Absolutely. And you know what, Richard? I have been obsessed with the news. I've been obsessed with every single channel. I've been reading every single article because I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to make sure that all of our people have the right information in each and every single one of these states to actually be able to vote. And speaking of that, I know you follow the news more than, everybody.
Listen, you know me. I wake up every morning and go to Real Clear Politics to check the polls. I'm like, let me just check the polls. Even though the polls don't seem to do much movement in either direction, it's just like, I just got to see. I have to have some sense, Carmen, that like this thing's moving the right direction and people are voting.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's complicated. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later with our friends, Alexis Anderson-Reed from State Voices and Quran Blair from the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. Okay, I've been watching the headlines. I'm about to read one of the headlines. Early
Please.
voting has a big response from the people. I'm reading that from Politico. And I know you got this article too, but at least I live in the state of Maryland. We actually start voting on the 26th. And so when I see Michelle Obama, LeBron James, and the Dream Team coming out and telling us that we need to get out and vote, that for me is how I'm getting my energy to be like, all right, I got to make my vote plan.
Yes, and listen, I think what's so amazing, and I think I'm always struck by how people respond to like. I was nervous at the beginning, and I'm like, are people really going to be able to get their act together? Are people going to go out? But then early voting started with Virginia being first, which is not too far from where I live. And the lines, Carmen. I mean, the
I
lines. My
know.
mom lives in Gwinnett County, Georgia, battleground county. She says her friend went to go vote and waited 6 hours to vote. She got there at 6 a.m. As
What?
much as nobody likes to wait, you have to say the people are paying attention because 6 hours to vote, that means there are hundreds of people in line.
But
Hundreds.
I saw a report as well that was talking about North Carolina. North Carolina actually having lines that were up to 11 hours. And I know, can you believe that? I have a friend that lives there. Shout out to Leslie Mack. She's an activist. And she said, I went yesterday morning. I tried to vote. I got there early and I still had to wait in line for about 2 hours. So, what I say to folks is, I don't think it's fair that we need to bring our lawn chairs. I don't think it's fair that we have to bring a snack, but it is what it is. So, bring your lawn chair and
Listen,
your snack.
and as Michelle Obama said, put on some sneakers, wear a mask, and bring a sandwich, bring a Lunchable,
Hmm.
and just wait it out because if there's any election where your voice matters, it's this one. And this is how much change that we can create in this election. I'm glad you brought up South Carolina because, as you know, beyond the presidency being on the ballot in this 2020 election, Carmen, there's also the entire House of Representatives. There's a
Yep.
third of the United States Senate. There's
Yep.
a lot of governors up. There's your school board, many state legislatures. This is a big election. This is huge. It's bigly, as the president would say, right? And
You are
if
not
South
quoting the
Carolina,
president. No, 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 no.
I just like the term. I just like the word bigly, so I'll take that. This election is so wild. Like, this election cycle is so wild that we never thought, there was never a day where people thought that the South Carolina Senate race would be competitive,
I
right?
know.
I know Jamie Harrison. I've met Jamie Harrison. I think he is probably one of the smartest brothers when it comes to policy and writing legislation. And when Jamie Harrison was going to run in South Carolina, I was like, that's pretty cool. But literally, the next thought that came to my mind, Carmen, was like, there's no way you're going to beat Lindsey Graham, right? It's just not going to happen. This is like, this is like, it would be the same as saying, oh, well, Dianne Feinstein's running in California and a random Republican's running against him. And Jamie Harrison's not random, but you're not going to beat Dianne Feinstein. Like, come on.
Because he's
But
been there forever.
because they've been been there
Forever.
forever. But in South Carolina, this race is close. This race is literally close, right? I mean, some polls have Jamie Harrison up one, some polls have Lindsey Graham up one. This is a battleground, and it's a battleground because Jamie Harrison, this past election cycle, raised $57 million,
Wow.
almost two times as much as the incumbent Lindsey Graham, who is the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and Carmen Yunos, as I do, chairmans of committees in Congress. They don't have fundraising problems. They don't have money problems.
No, they
They
don't
pay
let
the
it
rent
go.
on time
That's
every
right.
month.
That's right.
And the fact that you're being outraised by a black man in South Carolina, that's huge.
But I what excites me about this election is that there are a lot of black folks that are running in really critical races up and down the ticket. And oftentimes, what drives people to the polls is the presidency. It's the top of the ticket. But I really think that in a lot of these states, what is also driving people to the polls are these incredible races like Jamie Harrison in South Carolina. There are many others that look like this, and those are the races to watch. So my hope is that as you and I continue to talk, that we can actually talk a little bit more about who are some of these black folks that are making a huge impact. And like what you said, money talks. And so in these elections, if you have the money to do the television ads, the radio ads, going out and having, it's hard to have the canvas conversations now. So you have to have a whole nother digital machine. If there are, people out there that want for more black folks to get into governance, we are going to have to support them with our pocketbooks too.
It's about supporting them with your pocketbooks. It's also supporting them with your vote. And I mean, I think Jamie Harrison is just one example. I think you also see it in Jamal Bowen in New York, but it's
Yep.
supporting them with your vote. And I think what I'm so proud. I mean, especially people of color, especially black folk, black people. I'm talking to y'all, right? What we see happening in this election so far is that black people are turning out. They're turning out for folks, and they're turning out for a couple of reasons. They're turning out, one, because I think we all know what's at stake at the White House and in the Senate, but I think they're also turning out because they're seeing themselves on the ballot in candidates like Jamie Harrison, in candidates like Cori Bush in St. Louis, in candidates like
Yes.
Jamal Bowen in New
Yes.
York. They're starting to see themselves, Richie Torres in New York. They're starting to see themselves in the candidates. Whoa, we have set pieces falling back here.
Your set got
Um,
excited because you were talking about all that black political
exactly.
power.
And like a black face like popped up like bam.
Right.
But that is what's so powerful. That I mean, I'm not the person to talk about it. One of our friend Roland Martin literally was at the voting polls, and here's the clip of Roland Martin responding to how folks are voting in this election. Now I mean, that makes me want to cry, Carmen.
When I saw that on Roland's Instagram, I teared up. We know Roland, so he's a tough cookie. And to even see Roland be emotional made me emotional. And it's also emotional that like we said earlier today, that we're even standing in these 4 to 5 hour lines. But you know what? You cannot win elections unless black folks participate. I don't care how you cut the cheese. We are a part of the political power. So to our brother Roland out there, thank you for being vulnerable in that moment and reminding us how important it is and the history that we come from.
Listen, I think that's absolutely right. As a famous person once said to me, the power of the people will
Mm,
always overcome the people in power. And
come on.
on that note, we've got to take a quick break, but we're coming back from this break with a dope with the chief executive officer from State Voices, Alexis. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you after the break.
Our network fights every day to yield political power for all oppressed people, including Black people, Indigenous people, Asian Pacific Islanders, Latinx people, and our allies to build a healthy democracy. Our affiliated network is committed to building people power that transforms our democracy to create a free and just society for all. Our power is rooted in our commitment to centering the experiences of all oppressed people as the winning path to well-resourced and thriving communities. Together, we will organize on the ground to build capacity, leverage data infrastructure, and incubate innovative people-powered campaigns that support communities, win at the ballot box, and transform our state houses. We will leverage the unity of our structure to actualize our vision for a more just and equitable country where everyone can thrive and live in their full dignity. We're crafting a new anthem, and we will be heard. We're using our voices for power.
Welcome back to We the People. I am so excited to have an incredible leader on with us today, Alexis Anderson-Reed. Alexis Anderson-Reed is the Chief Executive Officer and the boss over at State Voices. Hello, Alexis. Welcome.
Hey, so nice to be here. Happy Friday. Thanks so much for having me
Woo,
on.
we are excited to. Woo, we are excited. So, tell us what exactly is State Voices, because y'all are an important group of people.
Thank you so much. I mean, I love talking about State Voices because I get to work alongside some of the most brilliant leaders and brilliant people across the country. So, State Voices, we are a national network of coalitions, of advocates, of organizers that are working together every single day to build a multiracial democracy that's really grounded in building political power for Black folks, for Indigenous folks, for Latinx, API, and all people of color so that we can thrive and that we can live in our full dignity. And so we work in these state-based coalitions that we call state tables with over 600 grassroots organizations that are working on issues like voting rights. They're working on civic engagement to make sure people can actually go out and vote and cast a ballot on election day. They're working on issues that are impacting folks' lives, as well as issues like census and redistricting to make sure that people are actually reflected and represented in our democracy. And the reason why I love this work so much is because we believe that like none of us can do this work alone. It takes all of us. It takes the hundreds of organizations, the hundreds of thousands of community members really grinding and working every single day together to making sure that we're winning and that we are achieving justice in the world that we can collectively dream of together.
Oh, that is
That's
so
so
powerful.
that is so dope, Alexis. So now we've heard so much talk around what vote plan. You got to have a vote plan. It's almost like Oprah Winfrey giving out cars in her show. You get a vote plan, you get a vote plan, you get a vote plan. But what I think is missing is what is a vote plan? What should be in it? And we're in the teens when it comes to how close we are to this election. We got like 10 days, 13 days, 15 days, depending when you're watching this. How do folks in the last 2 weeks of this election create a vote plan? And what is a vote plan? What's in it?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, everybody should have a vote plan. We know this year, from the pandemic to the uprisings around racial justice and really the fight for Black liberation, it has really underscored the need for a healthy democracy, that all people can thrive, and that all people have their needs heard and their voices heard. And so when it comes to people power, when it comes to the issues that our communities care about, we have to make sure that we're being counted at the ballot box. And so we're here to make sure that your friends, your family, your community members have a vote plan, whether that is voting by mail, whether that is going in person to early vote, or whether that's voting in person on election day. So you need to make sure that you are registered to vote. You also have to know that if you are going to vote by mail, that you know where to send your ballot and when to mail it. And you can also drop it off in one of those drop boxes that I'm sure folks have seen. And then if you're voting in person, either early vote or an election day, you need to know your polling location and kind of when your polls are open. And so to get your own plan, anybody can make a vote plan. You can go to plantovote.org. So that's really easy, plantovote.org. You can check your registration status and you can make your plan to vote in just a couple of minutes. You'll get updates. You can sign up to get text messages on polling locations. And it really just helps to make the voting experience like more easily and more accessible. You know, once you go on to plantovote.org, you know, it's in multiple languages, so in English and Spanish and Cantonese and Arabic. And then once you have a plan to vote, what we're asking every single person to do is reach out to a minimum of 3 of your folks. So whether that's your church people, whether that's your friends, your family, your colleagues, and ask them, do you have a plan to vote? Do you know how you're voting? Do you know like when to send in your ballot? And direct them and ask them to go to plantovote.org, and they can do it in a couple of minutes.
So I just want to make sure we got this straight for folks who are watching this and they are like, okay, I got to get a vote plan. So you need to, 1, check if you're registered, right? 2, you need to figure out whether you're going to vote in person, early, vote by mail, or vote on election day. 3 is where you drop your ballot off if you're voting by mail. Are you going to mail it or are you going to put it in a drop box? And 4, as I heard it right, is check with your neighbors, your friends, your associates, and your family members to make sure they also have a vote plan. Don't wait until election day to create your vote plan. Is that what I'm hearing, Alexis?
Exactly. Yeah, do not wait until election day.
I got it.
Especially with this year, with like the pandemic and everything going on, we're asking folks to be as safe and like, you know, make this plan as early as possible. And if you're having any issues, either on or before election day, you can reach out to the Election Protection Hotline, which is 866-OUR-VOTE. And you can call folks to ask, you know, any questions you have about voting. They can help make sure that you have all the information you need, or you can visit protectthevote.net.
Amazing. So Alexis, I've been following you all on your Facebook, on your Twitter. I saw you all have a new website coming out. Can you tell folks that are interested in even learning more about this powerful Black, Indigenous, people of color, civic engagement mammoth that you're running? How can people find y'all?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find us on social. So at State Voices on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, on Twitter at State_Voices. And then we also have a YouTube channel. And then, as Carmen, you said, we launched this new strategic direction. You can find out all about it on our new website, voicesforpower.statevoices.org. And you can learn about our work. We also just launched this amazing Artist Freedom Collective. And so we have featured artists on there. You can go on there and get free art. You can get free swag. And you can also get all the information you need to vote.
Amazing. Alexis, thank you so much for coming on our show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so
much,
Alexis.
All right, have a good one.
So I think, Richard, we should probably take a little bit of a break. Next, I am so excited to bring on Keron Blair, Executive Director of Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. But first, let's watch this quick video from the American Federation of Teachers.
And we're back on We the People with Richard Fowler and Carmen Spindiego. First episode, we're talking about voting. Now, when you think about voting, not only do you have to know how to vote, but you have to know the issues that got you to the voting polls to begin with. And one of the biggest issues that the American people are talking about these days is public education. Not only are we talking about investing in schools and school equity, but we're also talking about the impact that not being in school and virtual education has had in our community. And I think a lot of parents, a lot of voters, a lot of sisters, brothers, aunts, cousins, but education will be at top of the mind. So we thought on our first episode, why not bring in somebody who knows about education and knows about public education, and knows what impact it has on the ballot. So join me in welcoming Keron Blair from the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. And this, Keron has been an organizer for far too long. But Keron, before we go any further, this is going to be your first election where you'll actually be voting. Tell us why.
Yeah, so welcome to America. So today actually I became a US citizen.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
So wait, before we go any further, how does it feel? Like this will be your first election where you will be
it feels good.
The ballot.
It feels good. It feels safe. And oddly enough, I've been overtaken by the spirit of I gotta do it. I'm excited to do it.
Please give that to others.
Yes.
Right. I'm like, I was doubtful that I would feel that way, but certainly, it is a very important moment for us as a people, as people connected to immigrant people, and particularly when we talk about public education and schools. When I talk to young people, I was having a conversation the other day with a student who expressed, like you said, first of all, it's good to see both of you. Let me say that. But like you said, Richard, folks wanting to be back in school, right? Friends, teachers, the environment, but also this young person who was like 17 also expressed such deep concern about whether or not the current president had their best interest at heart. And so there is this wanting to go back, wanting to return, but also not wanting to be the sort of scapegoats in a political drama. And there is a level of distrust with the current administration. So, there's a lot at stake. And so we got to go out, and if we want schools to return, if we want deeper investment in our schools, and as we know, we can't disconnect schools from communities. So if we want stronger schools and stronger communities, that's what we're taking to the ballot in November.
And, Keron, I feel like in this moment, teachers have been given a really bad rap. I mean, a lot of them didn't start off as in their teaching profession as virtual teachers, and now they've just had to completely shift. So, have you all been talking through what's the plan to support, the folks that are, that work in the schools, from the teachers to the administrators, to the people that take care of the property? How are they organizing themselves?
So what you said, Carmen, is critical. And there is an admission on, Eros works with both with teachers and parents and students. And from the educator standpoint and school professionals, there is an acknowledgement that people in a lot of ways are out of their depth. And we've seen our union partners develop programs to support educators through continuing ed programs to strengthen their skills. We've also seen school districts do innovative things, but what we know is that it is not enough. And some of it is because the direction coming from leadership and from the top is so unclear that I think people are also, again, looking for leadership, and not just direction, but leadership that provides the necessary support for our educators who are trying to figure out how to deliver quality learning in this moment.
And you don't mean the top like the principal. You mean
the top, right? From
You're talking about Betsy, honey.
We're talking about Betsy, right? So we can talk about Donald Trump on one hand, but the other piece about the presidency is the folks who end up occupying these cabinet positions. And say what you want about Trump, in addition to Donald Trump, we have not seen a more, Richard, you know this more than me maybe, but unqualified Secretary of Education, hands down. Not only that, but Betsy DeVos came into this role with like a pledge to dismantle public education. So public education voters are not just going to vote on the presidency and on congressional seats and senators, but we're also thinking about who will lead the department. And at this point, we want somebody better, stronger, and more deeply committed to public education than Betsy DeVos, for sure.
So now when you talk about like how does this enter the ballot, right? Because I think, yes, we need to figure out how we invest in schools. Yes, we should be empowering and equipping teachers with all the resources they need. But if you're a voter and you are getting ready, you're watching this video and then you're going to vote, what is your message to them about public education and how it intersects with the ballot?
The next, whoever we vote for, whether again, in Georgia, there are Senate seats that are up, and folks, there are some people committed to expanding charters, privatizing, defunding schools, which means our communities get the short end of that stick. And there are folks who are committed to funding programs like Title I and IDEA. There are folks committed to making sure that the person who leads the department is qualified and committed to our values. There's folks who are committed to making sure teachers get paid well. That's on, and so when you go into the voting booth, you're making a decision around which set of candidates, because it's not just one, is going to put both people and policies in place that will make our public schools stronger and will make our communities better. And those are important choices and serious distinctions from one party to the next.
I couldn't have said it better. Listen, we've got to go pay some bills, but Keron Blair, thank you for joining us. Check him out at reclaimOurSchools.org, the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, because people and power matter in public education. Keron, thanks so much for joining our first episode of We the People.
And congratulations again, Keron.
Welcome to America. Here to stay. Talk soon.
Yes. See you later.
So, Richard, I was so inspired by Keron Blair because I think he said something that it was a point that we made earlier that should be underscored. Voting is just as much about a candidate as it is about all of these issues that we really care about. And I know something that you and I share is our parents really underscored our education. Like my mom, she went through great lengths to make sure that my sister and I had great public school education, private school education, going to great colleges. And at least in the Black community, it is something that we have to preserve. So I'm really looking forward to making sure that the folks that I cast my ballot for are champions for public education.
I completely agree. I mean, that's one of the most fundamental issues, I think, in this upcoming election, right? Because if we truly want to turn the corner for America or build a better future for this country, it starts by making sure that our public schools work. And I think what we've realized through this pandemic is teachers deserve to get paid like CEOs of corporations. And I think every parent who's had to deal with online learning has realized that, oh man,
I
miss my kid's teacher. Listen, so Alexis came on earlier and talked about vote plans. Carmen, what is your vote plan?
Well, I live in the state of Maryland, and we can vote early starting on October 26th. So I don't know if I'm going to go on the 26th because I feel like everybody's going on the 26th. I'm going to go 6 a.m. on the 27th. My husband got his mail-in ballot, so he's going to go drop his off. But I'm going in person with 2 masks and a pair of gloves and a sandwich.
I am doing the same. So DC starts early voting on the 27th. I will be going probably the 30th. I'm going to give them some days for all the early folks to go. And then I will probably wake up at 6 a.m. on the 30th, and I will go vote early with an N95 mask and and a hat.
And some glasses.
I might bring and some glasses so I can see who I'm voting for. And I probably, I don't know, maybe I'll bring a sandwich. Maybe a sandwich, maybe some chips, maybe I'll make some guacamole and bring some guacamole.
Okay, we out here. But you don't bring guacamole. People are gonna want to share with you.
That's okay. As long as we're all in line ready to vote, I'll share my guacamole. It's okay.
Well,
as long as you're voting, you can
Right. And you don't even care. Then you can have a little guac. Well, I want to encourage folks, if they don't know their registration status, if they're not sure what's happening, go to vote.org. And I mean, Richard, I feel like we need to thank Alexis Anderson-Reed from State Voices.
Yes. And big shout out
She
to
the bomb.
Quran Blair from the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. And folks, you should check out NAACP.org for up-to-date voting information and join the millions of other Black people who look like us, that sound like us. And if you're not African American and you're of color, the NAACP cares about you as well. They're the National Association for the Advancement of Colored Folks, as they participate in the movement to protect the vote and ensure that we make the change that we need in this country in this election. So listen, we've got to get out of here because that's our time.
Amen.
But we'll see you later this week for the second episode of We the People. DJ Spindiego, take us out.